Okay, so let's. So when it comes to the cell membranes, basically what we need to know is there are different concepts, like, basically depending upon, I hope you all know that bacterial cell membranes are different, plant cell membranes are different, animal cell membranes are different. Okay. But what is basically shown is that cell membranes always have lipid plus protein, correct? In the last class, I told you lipid plus proteins which are present. Now I'm drawing out a lipid layer for you. Okay. For example, if this is my cell membranes, now they always have a lipid layer, a lipid bilayer basically, okay? And in between are sandwiched your proteins. So basically it is made up of proteins, PTN, okay? And they're made up of lipids. So these are your lipids. Now, in the last class also I told you, like, every lipid molecule, if you look at this lipid molecule, okay, this full thing, I call it as a phospholipid. Phospholipid. Lipids are fat. Phospho is a phosphate group. So can you see a phosphate group which is attached here? Okay. So this, what you can see, this head portion here is the phosphate. Okay. And these two, what you can see, they are the two fatty acids. So any phospholipid, if you see here, they are made up of the phosphate head and you have two fatty acids. This phosphate head, what you can see, this is the head portion. See the orientation where they are arranged. They are arranged outwards, correct? So they are arranged outwards. So they love water. So they, any cell membrane will have water in the vicinity, in the cytoplasm, as well as, like, outside the membranes. So they love water, hence they are called as hydrophilic. Whereas these two fatty acids, they are arranged inwards. Okay, they are hydrophobic. They are arranged inwards. This is what we need to know with regards to the lipid layers and the proteins which are sandwiched in between. Make a note. So the lipids, basically, when I speak of any lipids, lipids are arranged as bilayers. So can you see here the lipids? There are two layers, right? So lipid is a bilayer, two layers, here and here. Okay. So head is here and you have the tail portion. So these two are the tail portion. Tail is hydrophobic, the two fatty acids. Now, in addition, okay, what this membrane will also have is certain cholesterol molecules. So this is your cholesterol molecules. Cholesterol molecules are very important, okay? At times the lipid part, the lipid components, no, the lipid layer could also have phosphoglycerides. Okay, the lipid portion here, what I'm drawing here. So in the lipid portion, basically, okay, the lipid portion could also have phosphoglycerides. Glycerides. Okay, not all that important, but you can just write it down. So composition, like, how much protein is usually present in which cell, how much lipid is present, that is very important. So it varies. Okay. Example, I would say, in the membranes of RBCs, in the membrane of RBC, all right, the ratio of lipid and protein. So proteins will be about 52%, whereas lipids will be around 40%. Okay, this ratio you need to know. Now, based on this, now there are various models which are explained. So we are discussing the various models which are explained about the cell membranes. Okay, so the first model that we are discussing is the trilamellar. The trilamellar, also called as the sandwich model. Okay. Now here they say that layer, it consists of bimolecular layer of lipids. Okay, so they say there is a biomolecular layer of lipids which lies between two layers of proteins. So here they are saying that there are two layers of proteins, okay, plus you have lipids sandwiched in between. So three layers, correct? Plus one lipid layer, they are saying. One lipid layer sandwiched in between. All right. Not accepted. Trial MLR. Okay. Next is unit membrane concept. The unit membrane concept. This was proposed by Mr. Robertson. Okay. Now coming to this concept. Now here what it says is the unit membrane concept is that all biological membranes are made up of lipid layers sandwiched by two protein layers. Okay, so unit membrane concept speaks about that the membranes, okay, are made up of what? Lipid layer. Again, this is also the same thing they're talking about. It says that the lipid layer sandwiched by two protein layers. Same thing, same like this. So they're saying again about two protein layers and lipids are sandwiched. Okay, they're just models. Okay, they discuss about. So the third one, what we are learning is fluid mosaic model, which is widely accepted. The fluid mosaic model. This is by Singer and Nicholson. This is by Singer and Nicholson. Widely accepted. Okay, this is which is widely accepted. Now coming to the fluid mosaic model. Okay. Now this basically they speak about protein iceberg in a sea of phospholipid. So they speak about protein is like an iceberg in a sea of phospholipid. Now, this basically speaks about proteins are arranged in the phospholipid layer as a mosaic pattern. Okay, so this is just like what we were discussing about two lipid layers is what you have, and all the proteins are arranged like a mosaic pattern. Okay, this is mosaic pattern. Anyway, arranged in between. This is a mosaic pattern. So they speak about two lipid layers plus proteins, arranged in mosaic pattern. Let's come to the composition. Of course, composition, I already told you that you have phospholipids, correct? And proteins, correct? First, let's discuss about the proteins. Oh, sorry, about the phospholipids. This is the main component of the cell membrane. Main component. All right. The main component of cell membranes. Now, main components of these phospholipids, basically, okay, example of phospholipids would be phosphatidyl serine. Phosphatidyl serine, okay, and the other examples are given here, etc. I'll write this, you can read from the books. Choline and all, phosphatidyl choline. Okay, all this can be read. Now, phospholipids, basically, phospholipids, they provide fluidity to the plasma membrane. They provide fluidity to plasma membranes. We say fluid, no, it is fluidic in nature. So components should be able to move in and out. So entire, like, it should be fluid, flexible. Okay. So the plasma membrane gets its fluidity all from the phospholipids. They provide fluidity. And phospholipids basically are rich in unsaturated fatty acids. Which are liquid in nature. All right. So phospholipids basically, again, if I speak about, they are semi-quasi fluid nature of lipids. Now this semi, okay, I mean, it is not totally flexible. It is not like water. It is not totally fluidic, but it is semi-quasi, we call it as. Okay. That means they do restrict the movement of some molecules. But because of the semi-quasi fluid nature of the lipids, there is lateral movements. Lateral movement. Lateral, I hope you know. Okay. Lateral is sideways. There is lateral movement of proteins within the membranes only. So within the membranes only proteins can move laterally. Okay. Within the bilayer. Is that understood? Now, the fluidic nature, no, this fluidic nature of lipids is important, okay, because that helps in cell growth. That helps in cell growth. They help in cell division. So they also help in endocytosis. Endocytosis means movement of components inside the cell membrane. Endocytosis. Cyto means cytoplasm. Endo is inside. And they also help in the formation. They also help in the formation of cell junctions. Okay, two cells are attached to each other. So the cell junction, no, this is the junction part. Two cells. So basically, they also help in the form of cell junctions. Done. Now let's come to the protein part. Okay. The proteins. Now, when it comes to the proteins, there are two types of proteins. One is integral. Also called as intrinsic. Okay. Now these are tightly bound. These are all tightly bound to the lipids. So they cannot be easily removed if they're tightly bound. Okay. Now, they could be partially or totally buried. Or totally buried. Example of such proteins would be channel proteins. Channel proteins. They help in the movement of ions. Okay. They help in the movement of water soluble materials basically. Water soluble materials. For example, like, if this is a protein here, which is an integral protein, they will help in the movement of water soluble molecules. All right. They form channels or tunnels. So chloride ions can also move easily. Any water soluble molecule can enter. Second, okay, is peripheral. Peripheral means they are present at the periphery. Did you see that? At the periphery. They're also called as extrinsic. They can be separated easily. Okay. These usually have enzymatic activity. They act as enzymes. Now coming to the role of proteins in transportation, okay, in transport of molecules across the membrane. Now based on that, what we have is, okay, we have active, we have passive, now, for example, let's say across a protein, let's say there are many chloride ions here. Okay, so let's say the chloride ion concentration here is more, and inside the membrane, the chloride ion concentration is less. Okay, so this chloride ion can easily move from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, so all chloride molecules can basically come from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration. In this case, you do not need energy. So if you do not need energy, the molecules are moving from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, this is called as passive transport. You don't need energy here, no ATP is needed. But if they're moving against a concentration gradient, okay, against a concentration gradient, then what you will need is energy is needed. So for example, let's say there are a lot of molecules, okay, a lot of sodium molecules here already inside a cell. And here, let's say that they're less comparatively. So these molecules, these three which are here are again pushed here. Okay, so for this, what you will need is ATP will be utilized. ATP is used up. So ATP will get broken down to ADP plus 1 phosphate. So triphosphate will be broken down to diphosphates and 1 phosphate will be out. This is utilization of energy. So whenever you write ATP, which is getting converted to ADP plus phosphate, this means ATP is utilized. Okay. This is moving against, this is moving in the concentration gradient, passive. This is also called as downhill movement. This is called as uphill. All right. Now, usually, like, for active transport, we use the word pumps, because for pumping, what you need is, okay, you need energy. Example. Okay. I hope you'll have got this. Now let's come to the cell walls. Okay. Cell membrane is nothing but the plasma membrane. Please keep in mind. Cell membranes, when we discuss cell membranes, these are plasma membranes. Okay. Now let's come to the cell wall. Now, okay, coming to the cell wall, as I said, it's the outer covering from the plasma membrane of bacteria, fungi, algae, and plants. Okay. The cell wall is not only for maintaining shape, but basically it also for protection. Okay. Also for protection against damage and all. So that is what the cell wall is needed. Now you have to know what is the a cell wall made up of composition. Okay. So when it comes to any algal cell wall, they have cellulose, galactans, mannans. These are all, a type of carbohydrates, okay? Mannans plus calcium carbonates in them. Plants also have cellulose in them. Okay, this composition is very important. Hemicellulose. They also have pectin in them and proteins. Okay. Bacteria, of course, I've already told you the composition. Okay, so you write down, which is going to be peptidoglycans, correct? This is made up of peptidoglycans. And I've given you the other composition also when I was teaching this. So they're made up of peptidoglycans usually. Fungi has chitin in them. This is important for NEAT. Okay. Plus they have polysaccharides also. You'll have to know about euglenoids, okay? They have something called as the pellicle. And this pellicle is nothing but it is a type of a protein-rich layer, okay, which makes the body very flexible. Dinoflagellates. Now, across all the organisms, okay, whatever you all are learning, you will have to know what is a cell wall made up of. Okay, they have basically stiff cellulose plates. Because all this composition of plants, algae is very important. All right. Now, coming to plants, okay, coming to plants and these, algae, and basically we are talking about cell wall of fungi, bacteria, algae, and plants. Okay, so in cell wall, so when we speak about the cell walls, now cell walls, basically there is primary cell wall. Okay, in case if there is a primary cell wall, this is the outermost layer. Okay, they are the outermost layers. Elastic in nature. Okay, they're made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin. C for cellulose, H for hemicellulose, P for pectin. Okay. Now, you should know in cells, what is a plasmodesmata? For example, if this is a plant cell, okay, plant cells basically have got these plasmodesmatal connections. So through these plasmodesmatal connections, okay, these are your plasmodesmata. Through the plasmodesmata, what can happen is all the nutrients can pass in and out. Okay. So through the plasmodesmata, all the nutrients can move in and out. So for example, if sodium is made here, sodium can pass through the next cell via the plasmodesmatal connections. All right. Coming to the secondary cell wall.